Well, brethren, I'm told that the Republicans have had a victory in this election. I'm not too well versed in the politics of the midterms, so I have to take the word of the experts and the word of President Trump. Apparently we picked up some seats in the Senate, so President Trump's position in the Senate is strong, but we did lose the House. I had been hoping for us to keep the House and the Senate. But I realized I was a little disappointed at first, but I realized today that my expectations were not realistic. I was hoping for a big sweep similar to what happened in 2016, followed up by many trials in military tribunals, and President Trump and the military government that is behind him, or that he represents, would take down the treasonous people in our government and with one fell swoop. And I guess it's just not working like that. Probably the larger reason that it's not working like that is that the population of the country, the citizens of the country, really do not know the truth of what's going on, that there's been a communist takeover in our government, and they were not strong enough to completely overthrow the government, which they would have done if Hillary Clinton was elected. She probably would have completely suspended the Constitution, and it would have been the end of our democratic republic. And we, on the other hand, the patriots, or the white hats, were not strong enough to completely overthrow the traitors that really performed a coup in our government. They took over the government. President Trump and the patriots that he represents, his government, which is basically a military government, has not been strong enough to completely overthrow the people that caused that coup. And I think the reason for that, as I understand it, is that the people don't know the truth. If the citizenry of America, if the truth was out there in the news media, I think President Trump would have had a landslide. And from what I understand, actually this is the fly in the ointment right now. The news coverage, which is 94% against President Trump. It's amazing that we've had the successes that we've had with a 94% news coverage calling him a terrible, evil person that can be likened to Hitler. It's a miracle that they haven't been able to impeach him, that we've gained seats in the Senate, etc., etc. So I understand that now. That apparently the powers that be, that President Trump, you understand he's not the whole government. He has quite a few people behind him. He has people in government behind him. He has the military behind him. He is the figurehead. He's the one that you see, but it's not just him. There's a whole government of patriots that are involved in a counter coup to overthrow the people that have overthrown our legitimate form of government, and they've largely overthrown it. The Constitution's hanging by a thread. Okay? So I understand that the wisdom is that the average person in the street couldn't even tolerate or deal with the evil that has happened and is happening in our country and in the world. So this is the way it goes, that the powers that be have decided not to expose this truth, or maybe they could not even, I don't know what the strategy, there has to be a strategy. I'm a total layperson with regard to this. They have to do something about this wicked media, which is a propaganda arm of the coup. That's what it is. Why President Trump hasn't done anything with it yet, I don't know specifically, but it's my understanding that he does not, what is the right way to say it, without the people having more understanding, either he doesn't have the power in Washington to do it, or the people, there's been a decision made that the people would never be able to deal with it. And the concern is to stop any possibility of a hot civil war. That is the concern. We don't want a shooting war. See? That's going to destroy the infrastructure of the country and people start killing each other. That's the big concern. So I think that my hopes were unrealistic, and I understand today that we had a very great victory. I understand today that there's such a thing as political history and certain political expectations. In other words, okay, what am I going to say first? The political wisdom is that the party that wins the presidency always loses seats in the midterms. The people just seem to go back and forth. And as far as the market goes, in our financial situation goes, the markets, this is what I'm just telling you my understanding of what I heard on the news this morning. They prefer a split Congress because, brethren, the general idea of our democratic republic is checks and balances, So the way our government was set up is that one party is not supposed to control everything. There's supposed to be checks and balances representing different opinions of different people across the country, but the two parties are supposed to work together to reach a working compromise that's best for the country. See? And that is what did not happen for these past 2 years, when the Democrats, who are representing very evil forces in the country and in the world today, could think of nothing except to take down President Trump. They're not thinking about the country or doing what's best for the country at all. But many of us citizens don't understand this. Also, there are issues of states, not only states' rights, but states' benefits. States have particular needs. One state will need a new reservoir, another state will need a new railroad, another state. So they send their representatives to Congress to get money from the federal government to build their highways, to build their schools, to build their hospitals. So the House of Representatives sends people to Washington to get what the state needs, to get the financing for what the individual states need. So the House was turned over to the Democrats. Many states were voting. The issues are number one on their mind were to benefit their states with immediate needs for Medicare. Money. They want money from the federal government. So citizens not really understanding that there's been a coup in the country, they're thinking about their state, and they want to send the persons to Washington that are going to fight for their state. But and that was the case in many cases. But in some cases, the people understand that there's much more at stake than states' rights. What's at stake is our liberties here. In the states where they were able to get that across to a majority of people, some people put President Trump's agenda ahead of what the state needed at the moment. See? But the bottom line is that we did lose the House, and now the House is, now the Democrats are going to be Democratic leaders of all of these committees that have the authority to subpoena and investigate and to impeach Trump, that they're now in control of the House. But what's interesting is that, and I didn't know this, and as I told you, I'm no expert on politics, but I'm learning that the Senate has a lot of authority too to investigate. And Trump has he's tweeted out, President Trump has tweeted out, if you use your majority to subpoena and investigate and impeach, that the Senate will start investigating Democrats, because now President Trump has a nice majority in the Senate. So and what I'm told is that, although I haven't seen the clip of it, that Nancy Pelosi, who will probably be the Speaker again of the House, when she spoke, she didn't say anything about investigations or impeachment. She didn't say anything like that. In other words, the Democrats thought they were going to take the House and the Senate back. They thought that this election would be repudiation of President Trump. They thought that they've turned the population, the citizenry, against President Trump. But that is not what happened. There was no blue wave. That was not what happened. And they lost their power in the Senate. So hopefully there won't be this vile hatred towards him, because now President Trump can hurt them through the Senate. So in any event, it's very good that we have gained a greater majority in the Senate, because the Senate is the body that appoints the judges, and President Trump is remaking the whole judiciary. The judges are appointed for life, and not only for the Supreme Court, but he's appointed more than 70, I think, judges in other courts, in other federal courts over the country, which will give a Republican control of the court system for the next 20 or 30 years. Excuse me. And now that we have control of the Senate, he'll be appointing more judges. As I understand it, there are offices that have never been filled in President Trump's administration because the Senate wouldn't approve them. They couldn't get them approved. So now with the majority, a greater majority in the Senate, they'll be pushing President Trump's agenda forward and appointing judges and other people to offices. So that's what I'm told from Fox News. I'm going to believe it. I prayed about it, and that's the station that I opened today, and I believe that's what the Lord is saying. That overall, considering political history, the Republicans, and we gained governors. Several Republican governors were elected, overthrew Democratic governors. So overall, it was a political victory for the Republican Party, which is President Trump's agenda. Although I had some fantastical idea that this was going to put an end to this nightmare. I cannot separate these politics from what I know is going on behind the scenes. And that's what this article is about. The evil that's going on behind the scenes, the trafficking, the human trafficking, the Satanism, the Luciferianism, the cannibalism of children. I cannot separate the current political situation from that. But all of those people on Fox News this morning with big smiles on their faces, they were separating the current political situation from what they probably all know. The ugly truth is of what's going on in this world, that there's a satanic and Luciferian contingent of people, which actually are the bodies that are expressing the very evil powers that rule this world in the most ugly, pagan ways. And they were up there with smiles on their faces talking about the layer that you could see that's up front. So the political situation, the Lord is leaving it in the hands of the people. He has not intervened supernaturally. Therefore, I understand that over these next 2 years, and also this is true also that political history says that every party that elects a president, they usually lose the Congress in the midterms, but we didn't lose the Congress, we just lost the House, we gained the Senate, and then that president is elected again. So according to political history and political wisdom, aside from any supernatural event, President Trump has every possibility of being elected for another 4 years. And of course, the hard campaigning is going to start very soon for the next presidential election. I don't listen that much. I don't watch television, but I understand that the ads were very bad, that the Democrat ads were, at least one of them, was saying if you cannot be a good person and vote for President Trump. So they've demonized him, they've made him this evil person, and telling simple people that you cannot be, if you vote for Trump, you're not a good person. That's what they're saying to them. So there's a lot of mind control going on, a lot of wickedness going on. And considering all of that, the Republicans did very well, considering the money that the Democrats poured into their campaigns, and their all-out attempt to destroy President Trump and his agenda, which is pro-American agenda as opposed to a globalist agenda. Okay? It's amazing that we did as well as we did. You know? So I'm receiving that wisdom. I accept that wisdom. I wanted to make a contribution to a political campaign. I want to put my money where my mouth is. I didn't know who to donate to because I didn't think it would do any good to donate to a Republican in New York, and it would not have. So I made a donation to a Republican in Pennsylvania, a Republican running for the House, and I believe he was elected, so I feel good about that. So that's my understanding. Even Karl Rove was happy, and I don't love Karl Rove, but all of the pundits were saying that the Republicans did very, very well. And I'm not a party person. I say Republicans because the agenda to save America is with the Republican Party at this time. And also, something very good that happened was that a lot of the seats that were picked up in the House by the Democrats were military. I understand that for a while now there haven't been many, I don't want to say ex-military because you always can be called back. There were a lot of military people that were elected to the Congress into office. In these last few years that hasn't been the case. But this year I think they were saying there were at least 6 people with a military background have been elected either as senators or House members or as congressmen. And what's good about that is that, brethren, what we really need are patriots. We need Republican patriots. We need Democratic patriots going to Washington. What happened these last 2 years of the Democratic Party being obstructing and opposing President Trump's agenda at every level was disgusting. I can understand a congressman or a senator wanting what's best for his state. The people from his state send him to Washington, and he has to do what he can to help that state. But when it comes to the good of the country, I would expect that Democratic and Republican senator or congressman to do what's best for the country. You're supposed to drop your needs for the state and save the country. What good is having the needs of your statement if there's not going to be a country? But the Democratic senators, the Democrat senators and the Democrat House members did not do that for these past 2 years. I am hoping that the new members of the House that have a military background will be pro-America. Even though they're Democrats, they will be pro-America, and that they will not obstruct President Trump's agenda in the areas where it's obviously best for the country. Ideally, we're supposed to have coalition on every issue that's good for the country. Republicans and Democrats are supposed to come together and pass what's best for the country, pass legislation that's best for the country. So we'll see. But everybody was happy this morning. Kellyanne Conway was happy. President Trump had a press conference at 11:30, which we've missed here. We don't have a TV here, or I would have played it for you. President Trump is happy. He's tweeted, he's already threatened Nancy Pelosi, you start using your powers against us, we'll use the powers of the Senate against you. And wouldn't it be better if everybody just got along and did what was best for the country? So I feel positive about it. And if anybody has anything to say or any questions to ask, the floor is open. Again, to tell you I feel positive about it, but still extremely concerned about the evil that's openly operating in the world and that's openly trying to overtake our country, overthrow our republic, and overthrow our Constitution. The evil lurking behind the sanitized news broadcasts, which would make people that don't know what's going on think that things are political business as usual, but it's not political business as usual. One party against the other. The Democratic Party as a whole are the party of the evil powers that are trying to overthrow our Constitution, and the Republican Party by and large, of course not everybody, is trying to sustain the republic. And the one, I understand that from what I heard, that what happened to Judge Kavanaugh was a big mistake of the Democrats. The people did not like what happened to Judge Kavanaugh. And they probably would have gained a lot more if they didn't come against that man like that. One of the women has already admitted that she never even met the judge, that she didn't know him, that the whole thing was a lie. What would make her do that? I think they threatened her with jail. That's what I think they did. And I hope they're investigating Dr. Ford, because as far as I'm concerned, she was a big liar and a Democratic operative. I hope that that is being, and I think it might be being investigated also. She really needs to be exposed for what she did. So that's my story. And overall, it was positive. I thought the war would be over. But and even out of my own mouth, I was saying the war won't be over until the Lord Jesus Christ shows up. He has to, the Lord Jesus Christ has to possess the earth. He has to enter into the earth in a permanent status as the Son of God, which means God has to enter into the earth. Not that Jesus is God, but that he is the vehicle through which God flows, okay? God has to enter into the earth and overthrow the existing powers that rule in this world. And until that happens, we'll be doing very well if we can stay on top of the evil the way we are staying on top of them with this latest election. So does anybody have anything to say or any questions to ask that I will try to answer if you have questions.
Sheila?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just listening to what you were saying and the spirit that you were saying it in, and this is kind of what I extrapolated. You know, this morning, waking up, and it's like you're just hit with things didn't go necessarily the way that we wanted them to go, and I was in another chat with some close friends that we were just sort of showing each other what we found. And one particular lady follows QAnon really closely. I told you about her, but I don't get any of that. But but anyway, I was just reading some of what she was sharing, and it was like pretty much along the lines of what you had shared. And but putting it together, and I'll read it in just a second if you don't mind. But putting it together with what you're saying is that, you know, we all want to feel good. We all want to feel safe and at peace. And we all, you know, like we're trying to calm ourselves and calm our hearts. And it's like, what I hear you saying is that's not going to come from an outcome of an election like this for those who are really tied to Christ.
Yes.
Our peace is going to come in the midst of a storm, no matter what's going on out there, knowing that he's still in control of our lives. Mm-hmm. And so I just feel like I'm just thankful for that leadership that you're giving us, that you're just standing that ground, that it's not going to just be easy. It can't just be easy. God has to get the glory for everything. And that means that it's not just going to just happen like that. We just have to fight for everything. That's just the way it is. And our carnal mind wants the easy way out. We want everything to be, you know, we want things to be exposed, yes. You know, I can see that, and I feel that, but at the same time, we're just in a battle, whether we like it or not, kind of, you know.
Yes. Yes.
What I'm getting, but one thing, if you don't mind, if I read this, it kind of brought some things. Me, who is trying to learn about this whole political situation. I don't even know who this was written by, but it said, here's what we know.
Okay.
The Democratic Party now controls one half of one branch of the federal government. The judicial and the executive branches are still Republican, and the upper house of Congress is likely to become even more so once Montana and Mississippi Senate races are determined. So this must have been written earlier. Control of the House means the Dems can write tax bills and see them get rewritten by the Senate or vetoed by the President, try to impeach the President, or start quote-unquote investigations that will excite C-SPAN, but no one else. And then it just says, the magnificence of the Constitution, you see, is that the control of one chamber is control of nothing. The Senate will be beholden to a GOP majority that is tied to the White House for its survival. But the blue wave produced nothing like a veto-proof majority. The GOP has a shiny new resistance-controlled House to blame for the D.C. gridlock, and now the single most ineffective cog in the federal government's machine is going to be run by Nancy Pelosi. So anyway, I don't know if you have any comments on that or anything popped out or stuck out, but it did kind of put things in perspective on one side and gave me peace on the national side.
I would like you to read it. I would like you to read it again. I need to hear things like that twice. Could you read that again, please?
Sure. They said, here's what we know. The Democratic Party now controls one half of one branch of the federal government. The judicial and the executive branches are still Republican, and the upper house Congress is likely to become even more so once the Montana and Mississippi Senate races are determined. So control of the House means the Dems can write tax bills and see them get rewritten by the Senate or vetoed by the President, or try to impeach the President, or start a quote-unquote investigation that will excite C-SPAN and no one else. And then they said the magnificence of the Constitution, you see, is that control of one chamber is really control of nothing. The Senate will be beholden to a GOP majority that is tied to the White House for its survival. The blue wave produced nothing like a veto-proof majority. The GOP has a shiny new resistance-controlled House to blame for the D.C. gridlock, and now the single most ineffective cog in the federal government's machine is going to be run by Nancy Pelosi. So.
Okay. Thank you. That really is encouraging, that the Republicans are still very much in control of the government, and that I'm glad you read that, because I didn't mention it, and maybe I didn't, it wasn't really even in my mind, that President Trump has veto power. So the Democrats are going to try to undo the tax bill and all the tax cuts that President Trump gave us, but President Trump will veto any bill that they try to pass. So the tax cuts will stand as long as President Trump is in office. And that, brethren, is not just a selfish thing that we don't want tax cuts. The tax cuts are intimately tied to the economy. When you have tax cuts, you become you're consumers, you spend more money. The whole economy that President Trump has improved is tied to the tax cuts. So the only way to overthrow the president, that was one of the things that was mentioned, a veto-proof majority. If the Democrats had the majority in the House and the Senate, I think it's 2/3, but I may be mistaken about the number, they could overturn any veto. They could change the tax bill. They could and overthrow the president's veto. But there is no way that the Democrats have achieved a veto-proof majority, which is what they were hoping for. And of course, the other main issue is health care. The whole mentality, the whole purpose behind Obama's health bill was the ultimate end of it was always intended to produce a one-payer system. What is a single-payer system? What does that mean? It means well, let me say this first. The Democrats have not given up hope of doing that, because John McCain overthrew the health care that President Trump and the Republicans worked so hard to achieve. But they did succeed in dismantling Obamacare by getting rid of the mandate that you have to pay several $1,000s if you don't want to buy that insurance policy. You have to pay a premium anyway, or what would be the equivalent of a premium anyway. So President Trump's majority dismantled that, which knocked the legs out from under health care, but it didn't destroy it completely. And the Democrats have all of their legislation written. They still want to bring in that single-payer system. They want to overthrow the health care that we have now, which I don't really, can't really speak to that, but it was supposed to be better than what we had because the premiums were going through the sky. But they still want a single payer system, which means that they will destroy all existing health care and put the whole country on Medicare and Medicaid. Okay? That's what they want, a single payer system. No competition, no ability to pick what plan or what doctor you will use, but they want to put everybody on medical welfare. And when you control the health, you control the population. Brethren, this is all about control. The Democrats and the powers behind them want to control the people. They want to be an elite class and the average citizen to be a slave under their authority. They literally want to go back to the serf system, the European serf system. That's what they want. Now, for the longest time, when I first started getting interested in politics, I would say to the Lord, I don't understand, why are they so desperate to control? Why do they want to control us? I don't understand it. Don't they have enough money? They're very wealthy people. Why do they want to control the average citizen? It really didn't make any sense to me. But then I would say, well, I guess I've never been a multimillionaire, so they say power is the name of the game, that they just want power, but it really never made any sense to me. Well, why can't you let the people just have a house and a car, or 2 cars, you know? There used to be a chicken in every pot. I mean, why can't you let the average citizen have a decent life? And you could be a multimillionaire. I don't care if you're a billionaire. I don't care if you're a trillionaire. Why can't we have a life with all of our needs met and able to educate our children and have a little extra money to do what makes you happy in life? Well, I don't have to be a millionaire. Why do you want to control us? I couldn't understand it. And today I think I have the answer to it, which is actually the next part of my message today. The answer to it, as I understand it, is this, brethren, that there are evil powers. This is hell, brethren. And Leviathan and Satan are the gods that rule over this world. I can never get it straight. I keep going back and forth whether it's Satan or Leviathan that rules this world. The prince of the power of the air is probably Satan. She's the power of the air. Leviathan's in the sea. Okay? This is hell. And this world is ruled by evil powers. See? Evil powers that want to enslave humanity for spiritual reasons. Okay? How am I going to say this? Okay? The spiritual reasons being twofold. Okay? They are, as we know, 5th-day creations, and they want to control the cattle that was created on the morning of the 6th day of creation. And they want to control us as cattle because they want to use us the way we use the animals of this world. And this is political. I shouldn't be starting this now. I'm going into my next message, but I will finish out by saying this. They're trying to capture us and restrain us like we have captured. Like in the West, they captured the wild horses from the wild horse herds and domesticated them. I've seen pictures in India with domesticated elephants who are all fixed up and fancied up with shining things on their head, and those tremendous beasts just being controlled and ridden by a single little man. You know, they broke the power of that elephant bull, see, and domesticated it. That's what these powers, well, it's not so much the people, although you can't separate the powers from the people. That's why it made no sense to me. Why isn't your money enough or your business interests enough? Why can't you let us have our little space? Because the powers that have made them very rich perceive us as a herd of cattle. And these powers are cannibals. These powers offer animal sacrifices, like in the Old Testament, under the Old Testament, all of the nations offered animal sacrifices, including Israel. So they need us for their sacrifices and for their food. And that's why they don't want us to have any power. It's not that they don't want us to have a house and a car and a chicken in every pot. That's not it. They don't want us to have any liberty at all, because if we have any liberty at all, we will turn to our God. And when we have a relationship with God, it's the intention of God. I'm moving into the second reason now, which is really the primary reason. When we as humans have a relationship with God, His ultimate goal, God's ultimate goal in our life, is to inhabit us permanently. Brethren, our purpose is to be a house for spiritual life. God intends to dwell in us. Well, when God dwells in us, they can't be catching us and domesticating us and sacrificing us and eating us and cannibalizing us. See? So they have to control us so that we don't develop a relationship with God, the reason for which we come into existence. That's the first thing. They have to break us away from God. See? And then they want to keep us as a herd of cattle for their sacrifices and food. That answer, which is a very ugly answer, makes sense to me. Nothing else makes any sense to me. Were you raising your hand?
No, scratching.
Yeah. Nothing else makes any sense to me. How anybody could be that greedy, for what purpose? You know? So now I have the answer that makes sense to me. It's a very ugly answer. You know? So the issue is all about control. The politics is just what you see on the surface. The Lord told me a year or two ago, that there's no king in this country. In this country, the people are king. And that He's watching to see what the people do. Brethren, I don't believe it would happen. But the country is in danger, and the whole world is in danger of being as Sodom and Gomorrah. Because there are certain things that God will not allow to happen. He simply will not allow it to happen. Right now, brethren, we the people, we are Adam. We are Adam. He's watching us, the whole human race. But in particular, the people who are in a democratic republic that only exists because of God. He's watching to see what we will do. He's watching every single one of us. He's watching us as nations, as nation states. And He's watching us as humanity in general. And then He will decide in the long run what He will do. But He's watching Adam right now. And if Adam doesn't succeed in what? What is this all about? Adam, brethren, is created, Adam was created, Adam is being created to manifest the nature of God, to be a house for God, and to manifest His nature. Right now we're in a free will stage, in a free will country, which is having its problems right now. But God raised up a country where you can exercise your free will. And God is watching us. This is all a test. I believe humanity is going to make it this time around. But if we don't make it, God will surely smash us and start all over again. He is not going to allow an eternal hell to come into existence and occupy this or any other planet. Eternal hell will never exist. Hell does exist, it's not eternal. It's an event. So, I have my answer. That's what it's all about. Adam is being tested. Adam is being tested. Is he going to be the first Adam, evil? Is he going to be the second Adam, righteous? Is he going to produce Cain, or is he going to produce able, for lack of a better word, I'll say able. Is he going to produce a righteous offspring or an unrighteous offspring? That's what this is all about. So, do I continue now, or I don't know that I want the politics with the message, but I guess we could do it that way since I started already. Yes?
I have another comment
Okay.
about this. Tony wrote a couple of things. I perceive that the Senate is the checks and balances, would be used if need against the House. The House won't get much bills through without the Senate agreement.
Yes.
And the President has the veto pen. If the House continues their attacks resistant, some of the American people would wake up and vote them out, and they could lose the House in the next election.
Yes, I agree, Tony. I agree completely. Yes.
Sheila?
Yes. Yes, Jim.
You know, I wanted so much for Trump to win this whole thing, you know. And I watched a lot of the things going on TV. And I felt kind of lost, you know, it looked like so good they were going to win the whole thing. It just looked like it.
Yeah.
And I was hoping for it, and I was hoping, and then my feeling just went down the drain when they said something about the Democrats control of the House.
Yeah, I was a little depressed at the beginning, yeah.
And then I just thought, if the Republicans did get control of the whole House, I think God wanted the way it was happening. They each have some, you know, I think he gives a lot of concern about people that are doing the wrong thing. He gives them a little edge. And this is a battle going on between the two of them. And how are they going to get together and be working together? They'll never be that way. If Trump won the whole thing, there would be riots, there'd be everything going on.
Oh, there would have been riots, that's true, and it could
I know
have,
there'd be riots, but
the
at
Democrats
least,
could have started a civil war, it's true, that's very interesting, yeah.
but at least they feel they got a chance, you know,
Yeah.
and then that God he actually is working with them. He sees all the difficult things that they did, you know.
Yeah,
And they were really out of place.
yeah, way out of line, yeah.
So the people have to see this, but they want what they want, and that's the way it goes. They don't consider both sides. It's the one side.
No, they just vote by, a lot of people, they just vote by party line, or they don't even know what's going on. That's the problem. So our job is to educate them. Yeah. The people have to be educated. I was listening to someone, I'm sorry, I don't know who he was, but he won by a small margin. And he was saying that they went door to door talking to the people. That's how democracy works, you know. And a lot of people that are inclined towards tyranny would say, well, and this is what's coming out of the Democratic Party today, well, they're really too ignorant to even vote on international issues. No, that's not God's way. Nobody's too ignorant. You've got to do every one of us, when the opportunity presents itself to us, has to educate that person. If God gives us someone to talk to, God's way is truth. Educate the people, and that's why what's happening with the news media is such a serious problem. However they did it, that they made propaganda legal, it was a disaster, you know. So we'll see what's going to happen about that. But no, God wants the people educated. That's what I said. Adam is being tested. And every human being is an Adam, is a part of Adam. It's a big test. We now have another 2 years to educate some more people. I understand a lot of the people that know are saying a lot of people have awakened. There's been a big awakening in the country. Well, it needs to be a bigger awakening in the country. People have to be educated so that they can make an honest decision. So God's watching us, you know. And it's also, the government was set up for compromise. If the Democrats won't compromise again, okay, God's watching. And the whole world is watching, and more and more people are waking up.
Yep.
So God's doing many things at the same time. Many of the young people in college are being corrupted. He's working in every place together. He's trying to accomplish and accomplishing so many goals that we don't even know about what he's doing. And he's working the whole thing together. So I was guilty. You were guilty. We were looking at it in one simple tunnel vision way. We just wanted Trump to win everything. I wanted this nightmare to go away of this human trafficking. And I live every day with this reality of this human trafficking and this cannibalism and torture of children. It's just a part of me. Every day I live with it. I want it to be dealt with already. But it's not time. I guess it's not time. I'm going to have to find a way to live with it, through Christ. But you're right. We're being tested on every level. And God's in control of everything, and he's watching. But we know what the end is going to be. I trust Jesus. And the end will be that these evil people will not prevail. It's not possible that they should prevail. And the fact that there are children being tortured every day, all that I could say is, brethren, we're in hell. I don't know what else to say. There are children being tortured every day. And we're in hell. Some people say, I don't know how true it is, some people say, some Hindus, some Orthodox Jews, rabbis, they say that the people that are born into a really painful situation, that they chose that before they incarnated. I don't know. I don't know that. I think that is contradicted by by the spiritual truth that the Lord has brought forth here, that there is such a thing as new souls, and that new souls are born. I actually reread what Rabbi Lurie had to say about new souls to see if it lined up with this, and it really didn't. This is what the Lord told me. There are new souls and there are old souls. So every human being that's born, for every human being that's born, there's a new soul born, because this is the first time this body is appearing, and the soul that lives in the body is that which was born from a union of some spiritual source and the soul. Then an old soul would be a Gilgal that incarnated with this new body. Every human baby that's born, this body never lived before. And in order for that body to exist, it has to have a soul, a nephesh grade of soul. So all of these nefeshot grades of soul are new souls. Then some people that are born, some new souls that are born, they're born with a Gilgal. There's an addition to the nephesh, there's a Gilgal, an old soul born with them. But everyone that's born, it's a new soul. So if it's a new soul that's born, how could they have chosen to be born into a situation where they're going to be tortured? Now, maybe I'm being naive, but that's how I see it right now, and I pray that the Lord straightens me out if I'm looking at this incorrectly. So, that's the story. But anyway, the overall outcome was good. The Democrats have control of the House, but they're hogtied. They can't do anything. Like Tony said, any legislation that they create has to be passed by the Senate, and even if it passes the Senate, which if it's really wrong, it's not likely to be passed by the Senate because we have a stronger majority, President Trump will veto it, and the Democratic machine is not veto-proof. So we're in great shape. Everything turned out very well, and those of us that had those higher expectations were not being realistic at the time. There will not be a complete victory before the Lord Jesus Christ possesses the earth. And that's my position as of today. I told you this the other day as to what's coming next in the spiritual agenda of the Lord Jesus Christ. He has to join with his relatives, Christ in each of us. The Lord Jesus has to join with his relatives, Christ in each of us. And then he has to take down the powers of the black magicians. He has to take down the powers that rule this world. They have to be eliminated from all of humanity. then the Lord Jesus will possess all of humanity and lead us and teach us to repentance and education about himself, and that at that point, that's when revival will come. That's the agenda as I understand it right now. So, anyone else?